on your computer, on your smartphone, on your Wi-Fi radio. We're localwebradio.fm.
Do you enjoy a nice glass of wine? Do you want to know more about wine pairing or the process of how wine is made? Welcome to From the Vine to the Wine with wine expert and connoisseur Matt Berzovich. Now, here's your host.
Hi, I'm your host, Kimberly Henry, and I'm here with Matt Berzovich, your local wine expert. And today we are talking with Matt about celebrating Malbec World Day around the globe. Matt, welcome to the program and the call.
Thank you very much, Kimberly.
I'm glad to be speaking with you. For many people, Matt, choosing a bottle of wine can be daunting, but discovering your own taste preferences can be rewarding. So I'm looking forward to learning from someone like yourself with over a decade of experience.
Well, there'll be a number of interesting wines coming up, and I'm sure we'll have a little bit of everything for someone. Whoever's looking for maybe entry-level wines, we'll be talking about a few of those, but we'll also be talking about some wines that you'll be able to put away in your cellar and enjoy a few years later.
Sounds good, because I think those of us who are kind of, creeping into the wine market or just beginning to explore don't always know when you should hold it, drink it, and when you should save it. So I look forward to more information on that. Now, today we're talking about Malbec World Day, which is April 17th. When did that start and by whom?
The Wines of Argentina, a group in Argentina that promotes Argentine wines, just like, for example, in British Columbia here, we have the Wines of BC, Association of Wines of BC. They put this together 4 years ago, and it's grown to the point now where 70 different countries and approximately 120 different events going on around the world to celebrate Malbec.
Okay, so why? What's the history there of Malbec?
Well, Malbec's one of those grapes that in Europe, where it started, and this, particularly in France, first off, it was known by many different names and is still called by a few of these names there. The most common was Cote, C-O-T. It was also called Pressac, and in the south, Auxerrois. It used to be a Bordeaux grape, it was quite a large proportion of the Bordeaux blends until probably 1600s. It was still a lot of Bordeaux had Malbec in it in large numbers. But as we went farther along, it started to fall into disfavor. It's not a grape that's well suited to disease. And phylloxera, the disease that started wiping out a lot of the vines in the mid-1800s in Europe, that was one of the reasons that the grape started being pulled up. Cahors, which is a place in the south of France, that is the spiritual home, basically, of Malbec right now. When you get your wines from Cahors, they say Malbec on the front. It'll be 70% will be Malbec in the bottle. The other grapes that are common there are Syrah, Mourvèdre, Petit Syrah, Counoise, things like that. The British actually called it the big black red wine. It's a black, dark color that has some earthy tones, some rusticity to the edges of it. But how did the grape get to South America? That was the next part of the story. Mm-hmm. It slowly made its way across with a lot of the immigrants that were coming from Spain, especially Italy. They brought their grapes themselves. The idea was that, grape is a part of everyday life for them, and they wanted to have it there. So Malbec wasn't one of the first grapes to come. There was a lot of grapes such as Tempranillo, Syrah made its way down there. A lot of the common Italian grapes, Nebbiolo, they're all popular there. But Malbec eventually came over in cuttings, and there's a couple of different stories as to how it got there. The main thing is that it did get to Argentina, and there it found its best expression.
So when you say best expression, it was the environment great for Malbec there?
It was. It ended up becoming a grape that everybody started using. Beautiful environment down in South America. Phylloxera wasn't a problem. They weren't having all the same issues that they were having all over Europe. But they started playing around with altitude. When you have the wine at a lower altitude, you're going to get slightly different flavors. And Malbec there has some qualities that are very similar to what Bordeaux is in flavor especially, but they can be big, powerful, dense wines. And as a result, a lot of people around the world have found that they're really enjoying the grape the way it's made in Argentina.
So as a wine connoisseur, and I know you don't love the word expert, but wine expert, we rely on you to know a little bit and teach us. How do you find digging into the history of these wines? Is that fascinating?
In many ways it is. That's part of the fun of wine. Wine is so many different things. Geography and history is part of it. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that it can be science, it can be physics, it can be biology, geology. All of this is all involved in wine, and also very much the place. The way that Malbec comes out in Argentina is a totally different animal than what it would be in Cahors. And if you have the two bottles side by side, you'll kind of see what that difference is. There's, like I said, a little bit of rusticity in a lot of those wines, a little, maybe a good way to put it would be the ones from South America tend to be bigger, fuller, denser, and more polished. The ones from Europe, from Cahors, tend to be more country wines, more made in the style that has been made there for hundreds and hundreds of years. The style from Argentina is a relatively new style, but it's finding wide acceptance around the world. Consumers are going to it in droves because it's an alternative to Cabernet.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's helpful information. We will be back. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Kimberly Henry with Matt Berjevich. And after the break, Matt will talk more about Malbec wines, their flavor, and why they are so popular.
More From the Vine to the Wine with Matt Berjevich after this.
Hillcrest Bakery and Deli presents Old Time Radio on the Specialty Channel on localwebradio.fm. Hillcrest Bakery and Deli prepares a delicious home-cooked meal, including dessert, just like Mom did. One weekend each month with specialty dinners for Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. A favorite among locals, these individually prepared meals always sell out fast. Pre-order by calling Hillcrest Bakery and Deli at 604-531-1750. That's 604-531-1750.
Are you struggling with a dental or oral health issue? Dr. Norm Ickert from Ickert Dental Implant Center is committed to improving your quality of life with the very best in modern and advanced dentistry. You can catch Dr. Ickert on the Health Channel for the Healthy Smiles Oral Health Show here on localwebradio.fm and at the Ickert Dental Implant Center in Langley at 866-981-1381. That's 866-981-1381.
Buying or selling a home on the Semiahmoo Peninsula? Catch up on local market conditions on This Week in Real Estate with Lance and Connie Marples from Sutton West Coast Realty on localwebradio.fm. To schedule a face-to-face consultation, you can reach Lance and Connie at 604-538-8888. That's 604-538-8888. And visit them online at www.surreywhiterockhomes.com.
Take control of your financial future with Sound Investing with Byron Stryloff, Senior Investment Advisor and Chartered Financial Planner with over 30 years of experience on the Business Channel on localwebradio.fm.
Now, back to From the Vine to the Wine with Matt Berjevich.
And we're back to talk with Matt more about the Malbec wine and why people enjoy Malbec so much. Matt, we talked a little bit about the different flavor profile of Malbec. Can you kind of,
expand a little bit on it?
Expand a little bit, but also kind of bring it in for us.
Yeah, Malbec has depending on where it's grown, as I was saying earlier, if you've got a Malbec that's grown on a lower elevation, you'll probably end up with a little more of that red fruit spectrum, raspberries, maybe red cherries, strawberries, in that kind of area. When you start to grow it at a higher elevation, it tends a little more towards those dark flavors, things like blackberries and black currants, cassis notes that'll start coming out, which reminds a lot of people of Cabernet.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it also, like Cabernet, can be fairly tannic wine. Again, as you start to go to those higher elevations, you start to get cool nights where it's holding the acidity in there, and you get these grapes that end up giving you beautiful wine that ends up with a little tannin that can have the grip to handle things like steaks. So it's why I say it's a good alternative to Cabernet. Cabernet would be the first choice for many people for any kind of a grilled steak. But if you talk to people in Argentina, Argentine beef, sausages, spicy foods, they go really well with them. And that's because of the tannin and the grip that it can have.
So what I hear you saying is if you try a Malbec and it maybe isn't quite what you're looking for, to maybe try one from a different region.
Correct. There's the main region in Argentina you're gonna find your Malbecs coming from is Mendoza, but you'll find other regions. You may find one from San Juan, from a few other places, but there's so many different styles, so many different kinds of Malbec. Pinning it down and saying that Malbec, all of it tastes like this, is a little more difficult. You have to experiment a little at a couple of different price points, and you'll start to see. For example, if you get in that kind of $15, $16 range, you're getting a nice Malbec, easy drinking, rounded, that kind of thing. Simple everyday wine. As you start going up from that price, you start getting wines that have the ability to age for a little while, that will be a little more structured, balanced. It's a beautiful wine, and it's a lot of fun to try the different price points there are.
And where would you start? In that $15 range, or?
That's where I started, although a lot of people do start in the $10 range, 11, 12. You're finding wines at that price point that are very simple. Some of them are good, some of them not so much, but for an everyday wine, they're fine. But I would encourage people to just creep up a little bit, and you'll find some of the more serious ones tend to be at that kind of $20 price point, and very good values when compared to a lot of the other wines around the world.
Okay. Well, I know you have wines of the week, and of course this week the emphasis is on the Malbec blends. Do you have some that you might recommend?
Well, two at slightly different spectrums of the price range. The first one that we'd start with is Domaine de Jean Bousquet. This is a $15.99, $16.99 little wine that everyday wine, nice, a little bit of red fruit to it, a very light oak. This vintage of the wine, the current vintage, is fantastic. It really pairs well with a lot of those foods that you're going to have on the barbecue that are going to have a little bit of a sweet sauce to it, like a barbecue sauce. But an everyday wine, a good introduction that'll give you some of the flavors that you're going to be getting from Malbec, but more on that red side. Now, the second wine that we have this week is the Catena Malbec. And Catena at, I think, $21 or $22. This is a wine that in 3 or 4 vintages now that I've had it has been an exceptional value. It's a little more of that dark fruit. There's a little toasty vanilla notes that come through, but it definitely is a wine with a grip to it that will handle a steak and that protein beautifully. Really good wine for the price. And between those two wines, you'll see a difference, a marked difference as to how much sweetness there is. The first one will have definitely a little bit more fruit. The second one is a little darker, a little more black fruit, but it's not as fruity. And as a result, I think steak beautifully goes with it.
And that's the Catena. Catena
Malbec, yes.
Malbec. Okay, that's right up my alley.
Well,
I like that dark flavor.
I like those wines too. I have to admit, I started with a lot of wines that were in more of that red spectrum, a little bit fruitier. But wine is one of those things that as you go along and you start trying different wines, your palate starts to change and you find things that maybe you didn't care for before start to be a little more interesting. And that's kind of the reason for trying a few different Malbecs and seeing where it leads your palate.
Wonderful. Well, Matt, I've enjoyed talking with you and hearing your depth of knowledge around Malbec and Malbec World Day and the history of how Malbec migrated and what it's become. I look forward to speaking with you again next time when we'll be talking about